call the meeting to order. Motion to resume the public session. Yeah, Dr. Richards and Ms. Unson, all in favor? We are in public session. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to GC Pride Awards.
Superintendent Daly, President Patensky, members of the Board of Education. I have Brandon Williams with me. Real quick, Brandon was nominated by Coach Esposito and Coach Meyer, who are our coaches for our unified basketball program. Also, quick note, Brandon literally just played in a game about an hour and a half ago. We moved it up a half an hour so he could make this meeting. So thank you for being here, Brandon. And the Spartans won 31-30, and Brandon scored, so those were big points. All right, a little bit about Brandon. Brandon is a 2-year student athlete for our unified bowling program and our unified basketball program. Coach Esposito wrote a quote that I'd like to read real quick. It says, "Brandon epitomizes everything that unified basketball should be. He is enthusiastic and hardworking. He is an incredible leader. Every day he reminds his teammates about REI, relationships, effort, and improvement. He says it every day at practices and before games. Coach Esposito is so proud of the work Brandon has done and the improvement he has seen. He's truly grateful to have him in our program. Having seen Brandon over the last couple years participate in our programming, I was so happy to see his name come across for our nomination. He is a pleasure to be around. He is a ton of fun in our programs, and we have our culminating event this Thursday. There'll be 8 teams here Thursday in the field house. Brandon will be competing with our kids. We are playing Webster Schrader at 5 o'clock. It's going to be exciting, and I'm honored to recognize Brandon Williams with our GC Pride Award. Congratulations. You want to take a picture out here? Perfect. Quick seat, I'll come get you.
All right. Good evening. Thank you, President Patensky, Superintendent Daly, and members of the Board of Education, and thank you for allowing the Student Support Services Department to recognize 3 noteworthy individuals this evening. Unfortunately, Angelina Pound, our Coordinator of Student and Family Support Services, couldn't be here to recognize Kathy today, who she has nominated, but I'm going to stand in her place. So Kathy Seblin is a licensed mental health counselor and a certified alcohol and substance abuse counselor for Delphi Rise. And she's a valuable community partner that we have within our school district and a valuable member of our high school mental health team. She sees students individually and she sees students in groups. She presents in classrooms and has also played a critical role in planning our opioid simulation. She also attends the assistant professional meetings in Monroe County and brings a wealth of knowledge back about resources for families and students for our district. Kathy is a dedicated professional and a valuable addition to the mental health team in the high school. So thank you, Kathy, for all that you do for the Gage Shiloh community, and for that, we are awarding her with the GC Pride Award today. Yes, of course.
This is for our board of directors at Delphi. All right, thank you.
And next I'll be inviting up Danielle Latore.
Good evening, Superintendent Daly, President Patensky, and members of the board. Today, I would like to recognize Carol Wilbur. Carol is one of our speech pathologists working with our elementary students at Walt Disney School. Many of Carol's students are in the autism spectrum and have some significant speech and language needs. I have watched Carol work with these students, and some that were nonverbal. I have watched these students flourish, along with their parents being able to see this. Carol always works very hard, no matter how much experience she has. She's always one of our first team members that's willing to learn something new, go to a training, and then turns around and shares that knowledge with her parents and her team members. Carol is fantastic at collaborating, and she really brings our families in to that collaboration circle. Most importantly, I love to watch her with our students because everything Carol does is student-centered. They're always put first. So I want to thank you, Carol, for everything that you do for our students and families and for being a great member of our team here at GC. And I'm happy to present you with that award.
Good evening, President Potensky, Superintendent Daly, and all the board members. It's my pleasure to honor my colleague, Bridget Remillard, with a very well-deserved GC Pride Award. Bridget is a teacher at Paul Road School, and she takes care of our youngest learners, our kindergartners. And these kindergartners have special needs. And she teaches a small class. And in my short time working with my colleagues in the PPS department, I have learned just how important she is to how well we do with welcoming our youngest learners with special needs to our district. Bridget is a wealth of information about early childhood development. I came to rely on Bridget's experience and expertise. Do you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, I did. During our work, assessing and making recommendations for our preschoolers going into kindergarten. It wasn't just me, it was my colleagues too. And I don't think they would mind me adding that. When Bridget talked, we listened. Bridget goes the extra mile. Her dedication and initiative were particularly on display when out of nowhere, I get this wonderful document that she created and wanted to share about what to look for during an observation with the preschool. And it was great because we sent it to all of the folks that contribute to the decisions, and it gave everyone a common lens and common language from which to talk about our little kiddos coming in. Bridget welcomes families into Gates Chili in the most compassionate and friendly way. Consider for a moment, and maybe you've had this experience, your child's been referred to the Committee on Special Education, and they're going to kindergarten, and it can be pretty scary and daunting. But when Bridget's in the meeting, she's an active listener, and she finds ways to connect with families. I'm going to choke up and make connections.
Sorry, not to.
And reassure them so that the family can look forward to their child's kindergarten year with the positivity and eagerness as it should be. So, Gates Chili is fortunate to have Bridget Remillard as a key member of our staff, teaching and inspiring our youngest children and families in their first steps towards academic excellence. And I am fortunate that I've had the chance to work with her this year. Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda changes.
Personnel, sir.
Personnel. Okay, moving on to board president comments. Good evening, everyone. It's that special time of year, senior ball, graduation, springtime. After senior ball, we had prime time. As I recall, when my children went through that time of year, prime time was an interesting, exciting time, and I want to thank everybody from the staff that made senior ball in prime time possible, especially coming out of COVID. I think all of our students really appreciate your effort to make their time this year very, very special. Thank you very much. Moving on to points of interest. Dr. Richards?
Good evening. So I would like to share on behalf of board member Katie Coffey, who's not here, that she wanted to express that the middle school music and merriment event, there were many community members and student volunteers at the event. It was great to see students perform and to see the conversations occurring and relationships being built between middle school students and members of the community. So she just wanted to express her thanks for that event.
Thank you very much, Dr. Richards. Any other points of interest? Hearing none. Moving on to report of meetings. Ms. Unson.
So I'm going to the Walt Disney PTO meeting, and just want to share that I think I'm looking forward to the new principal coming in, adding some energy and hoping to get parents involved, because right now we have one parent that's involved whose child is at the middle school. So we really need to get those parents involved. It was a great meeting, hearing all of what's going on there.
Thank you very much, Ms. Unson. Any other reports of meetings? Mr. Moscato.
I was able to attend the Monroe County Labor Relations Committee, and we had a review of our Rochester area school health plan. This is a consortium of the 17 school districts that reside predominantly in Monroe County and our 2 BOCES. So this group has saved millions of dollars, for our members. There's approximately 17,000 members, about 40,000 dependents are covered by that. So again, it's a good example of what can happen. It took a while to where we're totally self-funded within this project, so it's good.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moscato. Any other reports of meetings? Hearing none, moving on. There are no visitor comments this evening. Moving on to transportation report.
This one. Good evening, Mr. Daly, Jeff Kuchensi, and board. Thank you for letting me present our annual transportation report today.
Not only did she hide it, she took the batteries out too, so I don't know.
Which clicker should we be using?
There you
It's all good.
go. Well, I just want to start with our first picture. That is Donald Quinn. He was our Employee of the Year. It was nice getting back to doing this. Monroe County for transportation has done this every year, and then with COVID, we've taken a step back. We have not got back to going and having a party at the Diplomat like we used to for all the districts, but when we do, we're hopefully bringing Pauline, which won before, and now Don, and then whoever wins next year. But he was our Employee of the Year this year. There we go. So tonight, I'll go over a few data points with you. I wanted to put together what I feel is the 3 big questions you guys are going to get asked. Driver shortages, fuel costs, and our electric buses. I know if I'm getting asked everywhere I go, I assume you guys will be as well, so I wanted to hopefully give you guys some information on that, and then I'll end with our district goals for next year. So daily trips, this just shows you how many trips we go out on an average day. In districts, private, pro, special needs, MV, which is our homeless students, and the number of students are on the right. Obviously, the majority of our students are in district with our trips, but we do probably go to over 80 buildings a day on an average day. So we are all over the place. Our buses are everywhere. Part of the reason why I like how nice they look, and it's good advertisement. So we are all over. I'm having all kinds of trouble with the clicker today. There we go. Safety record. So DOT safety record. If you're not familiar, our maintenance shop is inspected every 6 months by a state inspector. They come in and they go through all our buses and give them a thorough look over. We this year, for the third time, as you can see, hit 0 failures, which was outstanding for us. This is just our garage, it's our drivers, it's an overall effort from everybody, but to have 0 failures for an entire year, every bus gets inspected every 6 months, so it's roughly around 180 to 190 inspections a year that they don't even find a headlight out. So that is an outstanding record. Our accidents are starting to go up, but that's because last year and the year before we stopped driving. So we're pretty close to where we've been. So it's not a huge spike in my eyes with our accidents. Our fleet, we have 88 school buses. That's the breakdown. We went down to just 474 passengers. Our 2 EV buses are on their way. So I am counting that because this is what you put through last year. So that's what our new buses are. 49, 66 passengers, 35 passengers. We have 24. Those are the ones that run most of the summer. So those are the ones that are equipped with AC and stuff for all our students. And the nice thing about this as well, you'll see buses equipped with lift. We transport every student. So when I bring in someone that's looking to drive here, I really sell that because it's great. Jason's department, if we ever have a need, his department comes down and helps us. And they really like the connection when they come here that they're not going to not get answers, right? They're out there on the road, and I can get them the answers by our own staff, which is great. They really like that. It's a nice selling point. Not every district does all their own students. Yes. Yep. The bottom right picture is one of our EV buses. It's when they come from South Carolina up to North Carolina, they are built that way in South Carolina, and they come up to North Carolina to get the rest of the body put on them. So there's a couple more pictures, and that is ours. I've been really pushing them for actual our photos. They do exist. It's there. There we go. Fuel. So another big question was fuel. What I wanted to do is kind of show you, in 13-14 was our highest year that we've had since I've been here. We are almost passing that already, and we're not done with the year. So the one on the right will compare a whole year last year versus this year, and you'll see when we budget, Mitch and I talk, it's January, February trying to come up with the next year budget. No one can see a $5 to $6 a gallon increase. I mean, it's just where we're at right now is just no one's seen coming. The start of the school year, we have a 12,000 gallon diesel tank, and it's roughly $21,000 to $22,000 to fill it. The last load was $45,000. So it's just, hopefully, it did back in 2013 and went down. So I'm hoping we start. You can see it did go down. I kind of put that there to show that I'm hopeful. It did it before. Our staff, myself, I'm the director. Melissa Mancuso is our assistant director. Kristen is our new transportation assistant. And John and Jen are our head drivers. On the mechanic side, Andy Porter has been our staple in our district. He's, I think, 40 years going on that right now. I always joke with Michaela that he was here before she was born, but he's been here forever. And we have 80 driver spots and 19 attendants. We're fully staffed with our attendants, and we have 6 current openings for our drivers. The next slide is what I want to show you is, if you remember last year, we were 11 short, so it doesn't, to me, it didn't really sound like a big jump. However, you'll see since July, we've lost about 12 attendants and we've hired 22. And we've lost 15 drivers and hired 18. So we are climbing out. We're hiring good people. The problem is, it's great that the media is out there pushing our job. People are trying it, and then they're deciding it's not for them, which is okay, because I'd rather have them decide it's not for them than have a situation. So we are finding a lot of people are just kind of feeling it out, and it's not for them. But we do have a lot of people that are still sticking around, and we did have some retirees and stuff. So, but that really shows the big picture of how busy we've been, and Michaela and Sandra have been helping huge just to keep us not closing over the last year, because we had some scary moments there with staff. So if anyone asks, we are doing very well. We had 2 people come in this week that HR met with, so we just keep climbing out, and hopefully we're at the point of full staff for our drivers. The nice thing about that is a couple of people that did come in, they're coming from in the state, but one's from Buffalo and a couple others. And when they're moving here, the one from Buffalo drove in Buffalo, and his director told him, "You want to come here for our transportation department." We had a family come up, I was telling Michaela about, from the island, and they know we're getting our electric buses. They know our safety record. You can shop around to be a driver, and it feels good that they're choosing Gage Chi-Li. So electric buses. So there is our 2 electric buses. That is not what they look like as of today. Unfortunately, they are somewhere in the line at the plant now. The plant has had a lot of issues over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I feel horrible for them. I mean, they have 1,000 employees that they send home for 3 weeks at a time. So they're really struggling down in North Carolina to fill the orders. The nice thing is that when manufacturers went to the zero waste, they went to on-demand deliveries. So if you go to the plant, the trucks pull in with all the parts to build the buses for that day. And if the trucks aren't there, they can't build the buses for the day, and then it just keeps slowing it down. We are supposed to see those buses hopefully the 1st or 2nd weekend in June. They're streamlining them once they get out of there. They're gonna do all their checks and then ship them up. So we are going to be the first ones in upstate New York with them. The closest to us is Bethlehem. They ordered 5 they actually ordered 5 2 months before us, and we're gonna get them at the same time. So just to show how slow they're falling behind. This one here is a couple points of information. If you look, it says how many buses. We did 1 electric bus on a 6-year rotation, 12,000 mile annual. 138,000 is the price we pay for a diesel bus. So when we buy an electric bus, it's 382. You're going to hear other school board members saying, "I heard 350, I heard 346." It's going to depend on how much you're buying for. We buy seatbelts on our buses. We buy different safety features. So our diesel alone is already a little bit more than most people. So that's why that fluctuates. But with the $200,000 off that we got, at 9 cents is the next one, is how much we pay for electric, $4 for diesel. They figure in their maintenance there. The number for maintenance on the diesel side, they took from a shop in Twin Rivers, California. It's the largest area that's got diesels and electric still. So that's where those numbers are based out of. Depreciation, they know because they've been selling these buses for a long time. After 6 years, just over 90,000 ahead buying an electric bus. So, and the chart on the side will show you that they're both kind of going up, and then the electric really starts dropping when you don't have the other costs. The next one here I thought was pretty interesting because I get this one a lot. So your greenhouse gases, well, you're burning coal to make electricity, so where are you saving? I get that all the time. So what they figure is they know how many plants in New York use coal to make electricity. So that's why there is some greenhouse gases for the electric there. So they're figuring in exactly how much coal they are burning just to make the electricity. It's still nowhere near as much as a diesel. And then the one on the right, we still have brake dust and tire wear and stuff. So they're not fluffing the numbers. They're literally putting down what still has waste and what doesn't. So your overall electric, little breakdown then, will be this one. All the way on the right is your diesel. That's very simple. 7 miles a gallon, $4. If we did 70 miles in the day, it'd be $40 in gas. The electric one factors in the chargers that we bought that are 24 kilowatt, how much we pay. I rounded up to 10 cents from the 9 cents. On 70 miles is $10.32 a day in electricity. So there's your start of your savings. Without the grant, that 90,000 all that before, they cost more. I mean, I am not naive to that. We need the grant money. There's EPA money out there and stuff to make them efficient right now. But with technology as they go, the price will go down eventually. But that's your comparison on your electric versus your diesel.
One thing I'll parlay on too is that this is at $4 per gallon.
Correct.
So we're not looking at the 6 it's at right now.
Right.
We're just looking at an estimate of it.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the gas price will be.
Right. So, department goal, field trips. We've talked about this over the years that I've been here with Mitch. We've moved ahead and we have purchased software now. So we'll be able to have a streamline of field trip requests. The teacher will be able to electronically request it. It'll go to the principal. It'll go right to Troy's office electronically, and then it'll go to me. It's great that field trips are going again, but we're finding, oh, we missed this email, and we're scrambling at the last second to make it to Patrick's Run or something. So to get it all streamlined and have it where we know where it is, well, you got a lot of sports right now. It's great. It's great. I mean, all the drivers love it. I mean, we got field. This is like it was years ago. I mean, I was at the zoo today with my son today. I mean, the field trips are great. The kids love it to see their faces. Peter left. No, he stuck around for it. Nice. He gave me a picture of the old zoo. That's Paul Road right there. So, no, it's great that we're doing them again. Questions?
Questions?
I talked fast. It was a lot.
That's all right. If you got any feedback from the Department of Transportation inspectors and what they expect from electric buses?
Great question. So Bethlehem will have the first one up here. They have every region head going there to inspect the first one. So there's not going to be any issues with people down the line coming here or anywhere else. They're going to have all those answered right away. I believe that's next week or the week after when they get theirs.
Well, it has to be a whole set of unique problems, you know.
Yeah, it's not so much problems. Everyone's just concerned with what they can touch and not touch.
Yeah.
We went through this with our hybrid bus. We had a hybrid bus, and we did the same thing where what to touch and not to touch. Our drivers, our mechanics, our trainers they're actually next Wednesday. Our trainers and mechanics are going through the first level of training from the dealer. They're sending someone up to actually train us on the vehicle.
Good.
Has having an electric bus changed any of the certifications for the bus drivers? Because I thought at one point a bus driver had to be able to do some.
I've heard so many different things. That's why I said what I've found with electric buses and the meetings I go to, the people that don't want them have come up with some really wild stuff out there. I've heard you need a hazmat certification on your license and everything else. The only thing that I'm being told is the training that our trainers will get, and I guess that just is they can then train our drivers.
Okay.
So it's a 2-hour training. That's all I'm being told they need.
Any other questions? Hearing none,
All right. Well, thank you.
thank you for your report. Moving on to policy committee update.
We had a policy committee meeting last week where, the committee decided to codify, adding in, we've always had the tradition that you cannot yield time to another speaker during public speaking portion or the visitor comments portion. And we thought it'd be important to add it in so that it's clearly defined for the future. And so you'll notice that with this policy, it adds in cannot yield time to another speaker during visitor comments. That was our one policy discussed.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Okay, moving on to item B, first read policy 3220, public participation at board meetings. Any discussion on that item? Nope. Moving on to item C, 2022-23 budget vote and the Board of Education election. Discussion, Mr. Moscato?
Thank you. I think many people know I've been involved in more than one election. In fact, this is my 8th. And I want to congratulate the community for coming out and voting. We've never had more than 1,200 people vote. This count was close to 1,270, I think, more than anything else. I'm sure that the turnout was somewhat affected by the number of candidates and number of issues that were raised. And there is a temptation for many people to say, well, they lost, so we can ignore them. And I don't think that's fair. I do think they raised some issues that need to be considered and looked at in the future. One of which was the format of our Meet the Candidate night. Again, because I've been involved personally in 8 of them and gone to a lot more, I do recall that we did have a way of of participants at the meeting submitting questions. And I think that was one of the issues that came up. But it needs to be structured if we do it. So I guess I would ask the board to think ahead to next year and maybe come up with some guidelines and things for allowing some kind of input. It doesn't have to be at the meeting. You know, we certainly have enough technology. We could collect questions through our website or some other means and make sure that they're appropriate and that they are from citizens of the district. You know, there was also the issue around curriculum, and it's interesting that some people had the viewpoint that boards of education have all this great power when it comes to curriculum writing. And quite honestly, we don't quite often. A lot of what we get is mandated by the Board of Regents, mandated by the federal and also by our state government. There were two bills mentioned at the candidate conference that deal with the issue of sexual education. And these two bills are both in committee, one in the House, one in the Assembly, and one in the New York State Senate. And I was not aware of them, but I went back through and read them in detail a couple times. And there's nothing in these bills that dictates exactly what is in the sexual education curriculum. In fact, the bills leave it up to the Commissioner of Education to come up with the curriculum. There's nothing in these bills that says we're going to teach kindergartners about intimate sexual relations, but yet that's what was said. You know, because that generates more interest, I think, to exaggerate what may or may not be there more than anything else. So again, you know, these are bills that we will discuss with our state representatives. One interesting piece of the bills is that the Board of Regents approves a curriculum, which sometimes takes years. We don't have to abide by it if we don't want to. But they will have, if it does have the mandate that we have a K-12 program, then we have to create one ourselves. So that's when we can take a look at the issue. One other issue that came up that I found a little bit disturbing had to do with the Department of Justice complaint against the district. The board was given a sharp rebuke, and the integrity of the board was questioned, which is interesting given that at least 7 members of this current board were not on the board when that policy, when that when the claim was made. Secondly, it was stated publicly, oh, well, it was about the dog. It wasn't about the dog. The dog was allowed in the building, allowed with the student. It was about the dog handler, who was going to handle the dog. The district's position was that the American Disabilities Act said the student has to handle the dog some way. So the Department of Justice had, I don't know how long the suit went on, 2-3 years maybe. It was a lot longer than it needed to be.
It was longer than that.
Yeah, it was way too long more than anything else. But the Department of Justice did reach a settlement, you know, and it's a copy of the settlement if anybody wants to see it. It is a public record. And what's interesting in here is the Department of Justice agreed that the school district does not have to provide the handler. They also agreed to drop all the charges, so the district was never found guilty of anything. Neither was the board, because the board wasn't really, you know, part of it more than anything else. So again, sometimes misinformation is dangerous. Sometimes it works by arousing people and getting them to come out and do something. So I think it made it a very interesting election, and given my experience more than anything else. But I think that we did have some things raised that we do need to take a look at more than anything else. So, but thank you. That's my perspective about the election.
Mr. Moscato, thank you very much. Dr. Richards?
Good evening again, everyone. I too would like to take the opportunity to thank the community for coming out and vote. I would also like to encourage the community. Previous board meeting, we had a wonderful presentation that talked about the volunteer opportunities that are available for the community to get involved in the district. And I would encourage the community to please do so. There were, I can't even count the number of opportunities that we listed, and you can always go back and get that information, but please take the time to look into those opportunities to volunteer at the district level, at the building level. Do your own research to make sure that you're being given the correct information. Echoing what Mr. Moscato said, that sometimes information that's just put out there to kind of plant the seed is not always the correct information. So we ask that you do your research. Please take the time to volunteer, and that way you can get involved and learn a little bit more about the intricacies of the district and how things work, and then a little bit more about board governance. Thank you.
Other questions, discussion items? Thank you, Dr. Richards. Moving on to approval of consensus items. Motion to approve consensus items B through G. Motion, please. Mr. Moscato, Dr. Richards, questions or comments? All in favor? I'm sorry? B through I. Correction, B through I. All in favor? The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Michaela?
Thank you.
Ms. Parado, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Good evening, President Potensky, Superintendent Daly, and members of the Board of Education. We have 2 retirees to acknowledge this evening. Our first retiree to acknowledge is Bess Ann Pernell. Bess has been with the district for 22 years. She will be retiring at the end of this school year. She's a teacher aide at the high school. She works with our special education students. She is a lovely individual, and we absolutely wish her the best in retirement and thank her for her years of service to the district. Our second retiree is Karen Ledier. Karen has been with the district for 20 years. She'll be retiring in September. So she's giving us a lot of notice to fill her spot, which will be difficult to fill. She's in the main office at the high school. She's an office account clerk. She handles a wide variety of things, and she is always willing to pitch in and help. And we thank her for her service and wish her the best in retirement as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on. Motion to waive the second reading of policy 3220. Motion, please. Dr. Richards and Ms. Littlewood, questions or comments? All in favor? Vote is unanimous. Motion to approve policy 3220. Motion, please. Ms. Unson and Mr. Moscato, questions or comments? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion to accept the annual budget and Board of Education candidate election results from the election chairperson, Dennis Lava. Motion, please. Ms. Unson, Ms. Littlewood, questions or comments? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Superintendent comments.
Well, many of us have spent the last several hours trying to comprehend another mass school shooting in our country. While the investigation of this incident is still unfolding, one thing is certain: none of our families should have to endure the suffering caused by these acts of violence. If we could all take a moment, please, to pause for a moment of silence. Our hearts are with the educators, students, and families of Robb Elementary School, as well as the entire school community in Texas. We may be physically removed from the shooting, but this tragedy comes at a time when we are all still trying to process the events that occurred in Buffalo last week. Our district, again, would like to remind our community that there are mental health staff and resources available for anyone who needs support in dealing with these issues. Again, similar to the board earlier, I'd like to thank our community for coming out to vote last week. The budget and all propositions passed, and it was great to see so many of our community members on campus and connecting with us to make sure that our kids continue to get a world-class education. Last Friday, our high school did our annual DWI simulation the morning prior to senior ball Saturday night. Every year it hits hard. and sends a very, very necessary message to show what a bad choice can do to students in our community. Many, many thanks go out to Gates PD, Fire Department, and EMT for their help, as well as the towing company that brought the vehicles in. It allowed us to send a very important message to our kids to be mindful of choices they would be making the next night. Senior ball was a huge success. Students and staff had a great night and a safe night that finished with our traditional prime time back at the high school. And a big thank you to all our community partners, staff, and volunteers that provided this great, safe event for our Spartans to celebrate together. And it was nice to see kids together again in a great tradition that's part of our Gates Tri Spartan culture. Last week, on Thursday, I attended the high school awards ceremony at our PAC. It was invigorating to see our Spartans being rewarded for persevering, succeeding over the last few years, and the genuine excitement they had for each other as they were given awards throughout the ceremony. Last Thursday as well, we had our Gates Community Connections Night, and it was great to see a lot of our students, staff, and community come out to enjoy a great garbage plate from Nick Toffos. Thanks to Chef Extraordinaire, Chief Long, for working in the kitchen, and our different people that did volunteer in there to help out. It was a great fundraiser. And it was amazing to see the line never seemed to go down the entire night. People kept coming because of the great tradition of the garbage plate. So that was pretty neat. Last Wednesday, I attended the 27th annual Dr. Michael C. O'Laughlin Outstanding Senior Recognition Dinner. It was held along for all 22 districts in the City of Rochester schools at Shadow Lake. Our district winner this year was Vincent Lushajan, and he was thrilled. He was there with his mom. And, you know, it was just great to see so many outstanding students being recognized publicly again, together, and having a great evening of celebrating great kids. So we've had a lot of change coming up with June as we talk about great traditions. The regents are changing. So we're informed of changes to the regents for the next year and a half. It's allowing for students who pass a course but fail the regents with a grade on the exam of 50 to 64 to be given credit for the course to graduate. Please remember that New York State Ed had asked the U.S. Department of Education to not require the exams this year due to the impact of COVID over the last couple of years. The U.S. Department of Education refused. So this is NYSED's way of providing leniency to districts and students and recognizing the difficulties we've had over the last couple of years due to the COVID impact. This should help many of our students graduate this spring. And then today, again, we had another change for the Board of Regents, where they announced this morning that the June 1 administration of the United States History Regents exam will be canceled for this year. To appropriately support our students in their well-being, the department is canceling the administration of the Regents examination in U.S. history and government for June of 2022. And at the June 2022 Board of Regents meeting, the department will approve a graduation exemption for students scheduled to take the Regents exam next month. And due to the technical requirements associated with administering a new assessment, the regulatory change the Board of Regents will consider will include exemptions for students planning to take this exam this June, August, and January. So U.S. history, the rest of the regents are on as of today, but U.S. history and government will not be required this spring, this June, August, or January. So some changes are afoot. And then they also changed for teachers the APPR requirement. They passed a bill waiving this requirement for this year. In effect, the bill excuses school districts and BOCES from the requirement of completing a teacher or principal's evaluation under Education Law 3012D and Regents Rules 30-3 for the 2021-22 school year. This bill also eliminates any state aid penalties for school districts that fail to implement any component of their approved APPR plans. Ironically, all our observations and everything were due by May 15th, so this came a little late. But it allowed us to not have to report the results to the state. Yesterday, we learned of a great fundraiser that was extremely successful at Neil Armstrong, the Uganda Water Project. Global citizens in our 5th grade at Neil Armstrong are demonstrated the Spartan way for children on the other side of the world. After learning about how scarce safe drinking water is in other parts of the world, they jumped into action and created a fundraiser for the Ugandan Water Project based in Lima. The campaign ended yesterday when they took a part of a mile-long walk around the school to signify how far students in Uganda have to walk to get the drinking water in the middle of their school day. Their original goal was $1,800 to cover the cost of half of a water filtration system. Due to their outstanding efforts, they more than doubled that goal, raising $3,912 to provide a full rainwater tank system that will help hundreds of children at a school in Uganda. Way to go, Spartans. So, to celebrate our great district, tomorrow night we'll be at the Top Workplaces ceremony, where we will find out where we rank in the Rochester region. We've already been notified that we will be being recognized for our DEI efforts again, and it'll be interesting to see where we rank this year as one of the top workplaces for large companies in the Rochester region. And a reminder that graduation will be at 4:30 p.m. in Spartan Stadium on June 22nd. And just so everybody knows, schools will be closed this Friday, May 27th, and Monday, May 30th, to honor Memorial Day. We return to classes on Tuesday, May 31st. That is my report, sir.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Daley. Motion to adjourn the meeting. Ms. Littlewood, Dr. Richards, all in favor? Vote is unanimous. We are adjourned.